Throughout our presidency, Canada focused on three priorities: protecting our communities and the world, building energy security and accelerating the digital transition, and securing the partnerships of the future. En juin, le Premier ministre Carney a accueilli les dirigeants du G7 à Kananaskis, un lieu qui reflète à la fois la beauté naturelle du Canada et notre leadership mondial. Et bien sûr, au cours des 2 derniers jours ici à Niagara, nos discussions ont permis de poursuivre sur cet élan. Ces derniers jours ont été très productifs avec mes homologues du G7, ainsi qu'avec nos partenaires invités, le Brésil, l'Inde, le Royaume d'Arabie saoudite, le Mexique, la République de Corée, l'Afrique du Sud et l'Ukraine. Ensemble, nous avons abordé les défis mondiaux les plus pressants, qu'il s'agisse de défendre la démocratie et de promouvoir la paix, ou de renforcer la sécurité et la résilience économique. First, we reaffirmed our commitment to Ukraine's long-term prosperity, security, and defense. Canada has made it a priority of our G7 presidency to maintain and strengthen our support for Ukraine at every opportunity. Today, alongside Minister Sabia, I announced new sanctions against Russia to target those who are financing Putin's illegal war. We also turned our attention to the Middle East, to the urgent need for a path toward peace and lasting stability. We reiterated our support for the U.S. Comprehensive Peace Plan to end the Gaza conflict, and we continue to call for the unimpeded flow of humanitarian aid. Canada will continue to be a leader in this respect. And beyond that, we addressed Arctic security and cooperation, the devastating situation in Sudan, the crisis in Haiti, and other challenges that demand our shared attention and resolve. Au cours de la diplomatie se trouve le dialogue pour trouver un terrain d'entente et apporter de véritables solutions aux problèmes les plus complexes du monde. La présidence canadienne du G7 a démontré que nous sommes prêts à créer de nouveaux partenariats internationaux, à approfondir nos alliances et à guider nos nations vers une nouvelle ère de collaboration. Nous avons relevé ce défi avec détermination et force, non seulement pour protéger nos intérêts, mais aussi pour promouvoir les valeurs qui nous définissent, la démocratie, l'inclusivité et la paix. In a world where multilateral institutions face new pressures and challenges, Canada has shown that principled democracy and diplomacy still matter, and that when we lead with conviction, others will come with us. We have the resources that the world wants and the values to which others aspire. Over the past year, we have leveraged our diplomatic and strategic relationships not just to advance global stability, but to deliver real benefits to Canadians, from energy security to economic opportunity. As we close our G7 presidency, I want to thank our partners and outreach countries for their collaboration, and all Canadians for their support and trust in our leadership on the world stage. And as France takes on the presidency, I wish my friend, Minister Barrot, every success in carrying forward this vital work. Canada will continue to lead with resolve as a steadfast partner, a trusted ally, and a force for peace, prosperity, and resilience around the world. Thank you. Merci beaucoup. Miigwech.
Hi, Minister. Rachel Aiello, CTV News. You met with Marco Rubio today. Did either of you raise resuming trade talks? And if so, what was discussed?
I met bilaterally with Secretary Rubio, yes, and I also was obviously with him in multiple sessions throughout the past day and a half. In our bilateral meeting, we discussed a number of issues: the illegal war in Ukraine, a path to peace in the Middle East and how we can work together in order to push forward that peace. The ongoing crisis in Haiti, on which we have worked substantially over the last number of months, and Arctic sovereignty. The issues relating to trade fall within the purview of my colleague Dominic LeBlanc, and that's where they remain, as they should.
So you can then confirm that you had this one-on-one, face-to-face opportunity with an American counterpart, and you didn't take that chance to try to have a conversation about resuming trade talks when so much of the Canadian economy is relying on it.
I can confirm that I'm representing Canada's interests as the foreign minister, and I maintained Canadian interests and the Canadian position on a number of very serious issues that represent the interests of Canadians. For example, we have a significant Haitian diaspora here in Canada. We spent time discussing the ongoing crisis in Haiti. We have many, many Canadians who are concerned about the Middle East, and I reiterated Canada's advocacy and presence in terms of greater humanitarian aid and in terms of our contribution to the peace plan and the path to peace in the Middle East. We also have a large Ukrainian diaspora, many people in our country who care about Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine. And we spent time talking about the illegal war in Ukraine. So as foreign minister, my responsibility is to represent Canada on the world stage on these and other issues. That's exactly what I did. And I'm respectful of my colleagues' portfolios, one of whom is Dominic LeBlanc, whose role it is to cover Canada-US trade.
Good afternoon, Minister Rafi Boudjikanian, CBC News. I take your point that officially neither you or Marco Rubio are the faces of the trade talks for Canada or the US, but they've been halted since October. This is the first time officials from the two countries have had a chance to meet one-on-one. And all reports are you have a great working relationship with them. Why wouldn't you take advantage of that to at least send some kind of signal about, you know, hey, maybe your boss should call my boss and these talks should resume?
Well, you're correct. Secretary Rubio and I do have a very good working relationship. And he himself will reiterate that his role is not on the trade file. And so we find ourselves in a position where we are building the relationship between our two countries without question in terms of collaboration on a number of issues, from Ukraine to the Middle East, to Haiti, to the Arctic. These are significant issues that rightfully concern the Secretary of State as well as the Minister of Foreign Affairs of this country. And that's exactly what we focused on. We will continue to represent our respective countries on the world stage, representing the issues that matter to our respective populations, and we'll make sure that our countries continue down a path together on these issues. That's my role as Minister of Foreign Affairs. That's exactly what I'm doing. Thank you.
Respectfully, in South Korea, Donald Trump and Mark Carney exchanged finger guns and some kind of apology in an 8-person dinner. We haven't heard anything about Dominic LeBlanc resuming talks. So when is this going to happen, if not now?
Well, I want to take a step back and emphasize that diplomacy doesn't happen on a specific timeline, that these are complex international issues, the ones I've mentioned and a host of others, and that as ministers, what we've done here in Niagara is gather together with outreach partners to ensure we have an extensive dialogue on serious issues affecting the geopolitical environment and the economic situation that our countries are respectively facing. I know that my colleague Minister LeBlanc is working hard on this file every single day. and I am here to talk about the work that the G7 ministers are doing together with outreach partners. That's the topic of this summit of G7 foreign ministers here in Niagara, and that is exactly what I think we should be discussing here today.
Hi, Minister. Paige Seaburn here with the Lake Report. Will G7 members be pressing China about the national security law in Hong Kong and pushing for the release of jailed publisher Jimmy Lai in a unified voice?
We actually have released our joint statement. It is live. You can take a look at it. It covers a number of topics from Sudan to Haiti to the Middle East to Ukraine. Those were the main topics of our conversation, and we want to make sure that we're unified on these topics. I want to say, with regards to the case that you mentioned specifically, I have raised this case at every opportunity. Media freedom remains an important part of the democratic process. It's essential to the protection of human rights and fundamental freedoms.
Thank you. And was anyone there to support the rally for him today in person? That you know of, sorry, just that you know of from your team, anything like that?
Well, actually, our schedule is extremely compressed, and so to my knowledge, the ministers who are invited to this meeting were in the room for the sessions that we had held just in the rooms next door.
Hi, good afternoon. I wanted to ask you about a report on CNN yesterday. It's about the U.S. strikes on these Venezuelan boats. It said that Canada obviously has helped the U.S. Coast Guard interdict suspected drug traffickers in the Caribbean for nearly 2 decades. But apparently the sources told CNN Canada has made it clear to the United States it does not want its intelligence being used to help target boats for these deadly strikes. Is that in fact true? Has Canada told the United States it does not want any intelligence it supplies to be used for this purpose?
The United States has made clear that it is using its own intelligence, and that has been clear for some time. And in terms of Canadian efforts, I will say that we have been under Operation Carib and the Canadian Armed Forces, supporting the U.S. Coast Guard, intercepting narcotics destined for North America. We're continuing to monitor the situation, but we have no involvement in the operations that you're referring to.
Bonjour, Madame Anand, CPAC. Vous aviez dit, mes collègues, un peu plus tôt, que vous respectiez votre portfolio en matière de commerce international, que vous laissez ça à Dominique Leblanc. Vous avez dit que M. Rubio respectait aussi son portfolio en ne parlant pas d'affaires de commerce. Sauf qu'on a des rapports qui disent qu'avec le représentant indien ici, au sommet du G7, il a parlé de commerce, il a parlé de chaîne d'approvisionnement. Pourquoi il en parle avec les autres et pas avec vous?
Je m'excuse, je ne comprends pas la question. Est-ce que vous pouvez parler ou poser la question un petit peu plus lentement? Oui, alors plus tôt, vous avez dit à mes collègues que M. Rubio, ce n'est pas son mandat de parler de commerce, comme vous, ce n'est pas votre mandat. Mais dans des rapports en ligne, on sait qu'avec le représentant indien qui est présent ici, aujourd'hui, M. Rubio a parlé de commerce et de chaîne d'approvisionnement. Pourquoi il en parle avec les autres délégués et pas avec vous quand notre économie est en jeu? Je comprends la raison pour laquelle je n'ai pas compris la question originale. Parce que je ne suis pas la ministre des Affaires étrangères de l'Inde ou des États-Unis. Je suis ici comme la ministre des Affaires étrangères du Canada et je ne sais pas la raison pour laquelle des autres ministres parlent à l'un et l'autre à ce sujet ou des autres sujets. Si vous avez des questions pour moi, comme ministre ici, je voudrais répondre, bien sûr, mais mon travail consiste à mettre à profit les relations diplomatiques et stratégiques du Canada pour le bien de tous les Canadiens.
Et deuxième question, il y a plusieurs éléments sur la sécurité maritime dans votre déclaration commune aujourd'hui. Quelle est la position du Canada? Parce qu'il y a des exemples de canons à eau utilisés par la Chine, en mer de Chine, mais il n'y a rien sur les frappes des Américains dans la mer des Caraïbes. Pourquoi ignorer cette personne-là, cette situation-là, et parler d'autres situations?
Mais merci pour la question. Notre conversation était un part de le travail du ministre du G7 avant ma nomination. Ils ont publié une déclaration pendant le mois de mars et c'était une déclaration qui discute, par exemple, le Shadow Fleet de la Russie, les ports, les chaînes d'approvisionnement, les underwater cables. Donc, ça, c'est une continuation de cette conversation-là. C'était une conversation très importante. Nous avons examiné les enjeux qui sont importants pour tous les pays à table. So the conversation relating to maritime security that we had built on the discussion of the previous G7 foreign ministers meeting and the declaration that was issued relating to maritime security. And that declaration related to underwater cables, Russia's shadow fleet, ports, supply chains, and deep sea mining. And all G7 countries wanted a continuation of that conversation that was originally had and certainly built on the work of our respective leaders in that respect.
Last question.
Thanks. Thanks, Minister. Maria Chang from Reuters. Given that maritime security was on the agenda today, did the issue of this American strikes in the Caribbean, the increasing military presence, did that come up today? And does Canada have a view as to whether these strikes violate international law, as we saw the French minister say yesterday?
I have not seen his comments. The issue was not raised at our meeting. As Canada's foreign minister, I hold responsibility for Canada's compliance with international law. We are always seeking to comply with international law. And regarding the question that you asked, I would say that it is within the purview of U.S. authorities to make that determination. Thank you.
That concludes the news conference. Thank you very much.